Good evening, and thank you for your patience. Sorry that we are beginning a little late this evening. Welcome to the final edition of our NIMSY Watch Parties in honor of Women's History Month, highlighting the docuseries Not the Science Type. Over the last 3 sessions, we have heard from 3 pioneers in their respective STEM fields. These women not only share a passion for STEM and empowering young women, but have overcome their stereotypes of what a scientist should be. And a little bit of information about myself. My name is Alexis Constantini. I have been with NIMSY since 2013, first as a teacher participant and now as a coach. I've been teaching for 20 years in the same New York City public high school, which is a pretty rare accomplishment in New York City. I am currently teaching AP Environmental Science and some other electives. When I began working with NIMSY, I was new to teaching AP, and our coaches were so supportive and welcoming and encouraged me to get involved with NIMSY, first in the New York City area and then more broadly. I am grateful for the opportunity to work with other educators, particularly STEM AP teachers, as I'm the only science AP teacher at my high school, from across the country. It's opportunities like tonight's watch party that allow NIMSY participants to hear from other educators all over the country and to build their professional network. Kat Garland and I created the accompanying discussion guides for use in a variety of ways and content areas. We'll get a first look tonight at the guide, which highlights Dr. Jayshree Seth and her story. And Kat is a physics teacher by trade. And so together we created these guides with the idea of how we could use them in our classrooms and how they would be most useful across different content areas. And we developed them with the idea that they would be used either in a traditional 45-minute period over the course of 2 days or in a longer block period over the course of 1 period. And they're broken into 2 sections that you could easily be able to do the beginning and the end over 2 days. So this episode we're going to watch tonight is Dr. Seth's story. She works as a corporate scientist and the chief science advocate at 3M, where she has developed dozens of patents and learned to balance logic and creativity. Dr. Seth her path was not linear, and her story highlights that as in science, life doesn't always go as it was planned, and the outcome could be something wholly unexpected. So we again want to thank 3M for partnering with us on this project and highlighting the diverse stories of these women. So we will watch Dr. Seth's story now.
When I was growing up, I never thought of myself as the science and engineering type because I wasn't breaking apart toys curious to understand how they work. What I wondered about was the humans who put them together. What were they thinking? To me, it was always the human context that was powerful. I knew from a young age I wanted to do something that would solve problems, help people improve lives. I just wanted to make the world a better place. And in looking back, I realized that I would have never been a scientist or an engineer had it not been for my parents' persistence. To me, the humanities was much more interesting and exciting. But now I know science is a human endeavor, and it's one in which you can bring your whole self in. Your ideas, your inspiration, your passion, your interests. And that's exactly what I did.
डाल दूं इसको भी पुराना?
No, wait for that portion.
Oh my God, onion smells. My name is Jayshree Seth. I'm a scientist at 3M, and I'm also 3M's first ever chief science advocate. I do come from a family that really values education. My great-grandfather had a master's. I'm not sure how many people can say that. My maternal grandfather was a physician. My father retired as the director of India's National Institute of Hydrology. My mother is a college graduate. I know that we have a long legacy of education, and it was very important in the family. So as a young family, my dad decided that we would move to a place called Roorkee. And it's just an engineering town because there is this premier engineering institute, then there's the Irrigation Research Institute, the Army Corps of Engineers. So it was just in the water. We used to joke that everybody just has to become an engineer. And what that meant is all the parents encouraged their kids to become engineers, even their daughters. So I did well in school. I always liked working hard. And it comes down to this entrance exam, and I didn't get in. I didn't get in. So I ended up in a college thousands of miles away from home in a completely different part of the country. It's like going from Ireland to Portugal. It's a different language, different culture, different social norms. It was a really big change for me. So I was in my final year, and everybody was applying to go to the US for graduate school. And just in competition with the guys, I also applied. And this time, I got in. And so, long story short, I ended up in the US at Clarkson University in upstate New York for my master's in chemical engineering. And in many ways, when I look back, I realized that I became a trailblazer because I was the only girl in the lab. There were 14 of us. And I was working on a theoretical modeling project. And I would look around, and there were other people in the lab who were actually doing experiments. All these years, I had never realized what is it that I wanted. See, I was kind of going along with what the expectations were of me. For the first time, I started realizing this sense of, is this what I want to do? What is it that I like? And I realized that I wanted to do experiments. I wanted to feel that whatever I was doing was helping people. In looking back, I feel like I was missing the human context of what I was doing. So I decided to switch from my master's to my PhD, my fields. I have to start over. But somewhere deep down, I also knew that I have done this before. I have reinvented myself many times already and have done new things. I'll be fine. So I had an opportunity to do an internship at 3M. And that's when I first came to Minnesota, and I thought it was a great environment. And I got offered a full-time position. It was in a completely different area than my master's or PhD. So my PhD was in diamond-like films, and I came here and I started working on closures and fasteners for disposable diapers. So I always joke that I went from diamonds to diapers. I'd never seen a diamond, I'd never seen a diaper, so what's the difference? I would envision what it would be like for a child to wear these diapers, and we made them softer and softer from our closures. And just that context and the empathy that you feel for the end user was such a critical part of the science that I was doing. And that was so important to me. So I was very successful in some of my early projects. I got a lot of accolades. I started getting noticed. I got more and more challenging projects. And with each one, it sort of built my confidence. So I've had a successful career. I've been here 27 years. I have worked on many different product innovations. I'm at the highest level a scientist can attain. With my role as the chief science advocate, I got the opportunity to observe people's perception of science and the relationship society has with science. It was very interesting. 4 out of 10 said if science didn't exist, their lives would be no different. This was shocking. Science is all around us. It has made our lives so much better, but we haven't communicated it for the average public to understand. And so the more stereotypes we break, the better outcomes we're going to have because we invite more people into the world of science. So this is my office, and yes, the patents are part of the projects that I worked on for over 27 years that I've been at 3M. And I don't know if I can say there is a special or favorite patent. It's really not about the patents, it's about the problems we solve. And each of these patents reminds me of the people that I have collaborated with to solve those problems. So these are all very special to me. I never thought of myself as the science type, but it turns out I am the science type. I want to tell the next generation of STEM students that you don't have to be what people expect from a scientist, some outdated stereotype. As far as racial and gender equity goes, we need every idea, every diverse perspective in order to solve problems. In fact, that's exactly what we need more of. Science needs you to be you.
So that was Dr. Seth's story, and she is, just like the other three women, truly a trailblazer in her field, with all of the patents that she has to her name. It's pretty impressive. And so for the discussion guide piece, again, we would like to encourage you to use the chat function or the comment section in order to ask any questions that you might have related to the discussion guides. And if you are viewing this, you may want to go full screen if you are not already, because the discussion guide is a little bit smaller. So we will share our screen and let you get a look at the discussion guide for Dr. Seth. Hopefully. There we go. So our discussion guides, as I said earlier, were designed to be used either in a 45-minute section twice or in a longer block of time. So each of the discussion guides is divided into sections. The before, during, and after sections would easily be able to be done during that first 45-minute period. And then the going further activity and career sections could be a follow-up period. And so for Dr. Seth's discussion guide, we would encourage you to begin before watching the video with students engaging in a pair share around the ways in which science shows up in their daily lives. As you saw in Dr. Seth's story, it is very disheartening that 4 out of 10 people think that science plays no part. If there was no science, it wouldn't have an effect on their lives. And so to have the students think about ways in which science is a part of their daily life, and to have a conversation with their peers about ways that science shows up in their daily lives. And there's several examples in the discussion guide that students can think about how each of these ideas shows up. Like, I see science in the kitchen when I'm boiling water. Or I see science in the sky when the clouds are moving, or I see science on my phone when Instagram uses the algorithm to send me videos, or actually that's probably more like other videos that they might watch, but that's Instagram for us older people. And have the students share, and then they can complete each other's thoughts. I see science when, and then the other student can say because or when, and kind of complete the idea and think together. And then you can show the video clip and pause during the discussion after Dr. Seth says that 4 out of 10 says that if science didn't exist, their lives would be no different. And you can pause there and begin a discussion around that idea, and going back to their list of when they see science and how science has made a task easier or made it different, or how it's changed over the last couple of years, possibly if it's gotten easier because of science. And then after the video, you would do another discussion around passions and setbacks, because another part of Dr. Seth's story is that she didn't get into the institute that she wanted to attend. And so that was a setback for her. And how did she overcome that? And how did she find her true passion? And how do we respond to failure? And how is that an opportunity for growth? And then how science is about setbacks, and that setbacks are a natural part of the scientific process and understanding new things. So that is what you would do in the before, during, and after the video. And then there's the going further piece, where you can explore a little bit more about Dr. Seth. You can explore about her patents. And then there will be some activities where the students can do some hands-on activities as well. So in the first section of the going further, there's some research that students can do. They can watch Dr. Seth's own At Home with Dr. Seth, Science at Home with Dr. Seth. She has her own YouTube series about you doing science experiments at home with your everyday kitchen items. And there's some other opportunities to watch some more stories about Dr. Seth on in Intro to Behind the Beaker. And then you can have them do some research into some of her patents and try and reverse engineer the ideas that she tried to solve, or the questions that she tried to solve with the patents that she helped to create. Or you can have them do some research of the Fortune 100 companies and imagine that they were in the role of chief science advocate and for the company that they're researching, and what would they be advocating for? What would they want to see as policy put into place for their company? In the activity portion of the guide, there's a few different suggestions for classroom activities. The idea of coming up with some common classroom problems and trying to solve those problems with items that they can find in their classroom. Think like a manufacturing engineer. How can you improve the way a product was made? There's an activity linked there. There's also some NIMSY activities that are linked. How does it rate, and designing a hand warmer? Those can be done in chemistry courses. And then making connections between Dr. Seth's story and her work at 3M for solving problems, and teamwork, and how can teamwork in your classroom help solve problems in our classrooms as well. So that would be the activities portion. And then we have the careers portion, and the careers portion can be divided into two different kinds of activities. There's the NEPRIS website, where students can literally type in one of these engineering fields, and learn about the type of schooling and what kinds of jobs they do, and what is expected of an engineer in the field of, say, biomedical engineering. And they can learn a lot more about what it would be like to go to school for that, and what the career opportunities would look like when doing biomedical engineering. So students can learn a lot about the different career opportunities that are available for engineers. And then you would end with a meet section, which has a few other engineers, and not just engineers, but also a lead scientist and a deep sea explorer from the If Then collection, which is another one of NIMSY's partners. This one is the Lyda Hill Foundation has sponsored the If Then collection, which is a very thorough collection of women in STEM. And 4 phenomenal women are linked here that have stories similar to Dr. Seth. And that is the discussion guide. And I wanted to pause really quickly to see if there were any questions or comments in the comments box, and also let you all know that on April 1st, all 4 of the discussion guides will be available on NIMSY's website. And if there are no discussions, thank you for joining us in this month-long exploration into women in STEM in honor of Women's History Month. Yes, we have our special Family STEM adventure on April 6th, where families can meet Chitanjali Rao, the young woman we looked at on Saturday. And thank you for joining us. And I wish you the best in the rest of your evening. And again, sorry for the delay this evening.